I'm living and working remotely from São Paulo for 6 months, more specifically this apartment. So I'll give you a tour. I'll show you what you can get at this price, the location. There's a co-working space, gym, terrace. I'll give you a full tour of the apartment so you know what you can expect at this price, $1,000 per month from Airbnb. This is just a small studio, but I honestly feel like the host did a really good job, their best job that they could possibly do to make it feel like a 1 bedroom and do the most that they could with the space. And I'll show you what I mean by that. So when you first come in, the first thing over here is the kitchen. I would say it's pretty well equipped. You have everything you need. Freezer. This is actually a really good size considering how small the apartment is. Not too bad there. As I said, it's very well equipped. Got all the kind of glassware. I do have some of my supplements and stuff like that over there. Here we got seasonings and things like that. More kitchenware. I actually haven't even looked up there. I guess there's even more up there. Blender, panini press, bunch of things. I honestly don't use a lot of that. I do some very simple cooking. I don't think there's anything in there. All sorts of supplies that you might need, like utensils, cooking utensils, towels, things like that. Pots, pans, I've got some of them washing here. One downside, honestly, is that this dish washing space is very small. I already don't love to wash the dishes, so having like a really, really small area to do that makes it even worse. So don't love that. In general, the kitchen, I would say, is quite small, but it is what it is. The good thing is it's just me. I think if it were 2 people, it would feel really, really tight with the kitchen. Specifically, the kitchen is just small for 2 people, but for 1 person, it pretty much does the job. So right next to the kitchen, I would say is basically the living area. I actually missed, there's some more kind of kitchen storage stuff over here. But as I said, this is the living area. I can't really call it a living room because honestly, it's right beside the kitchen, so it's not a separate room. But this is where the couch is. This is where the TV is as well, and it leads out to the balcony. We'll get to the balcony in a second. I just want to finish up inside first. So thing one that they did that was a very, very good use of the space, I would say, is this kind of separator that they have here. So behind the separator, which isn't really a wall, you'll notice there are gaps here, and you can kind of see past it. I'll show you. I can fit my arm through here, but it almost is like sort of like a wall. The TV covers up a lot here as well, and so this really separates the space a lot, which is awesome. This is my workspace, which I'll get to in a second, but it's nice to kind of separate the living, working, kitchen area from the sleeping area. So do appreciate that. They did a good job with that for sure. One other cool thing is that this TV, I don't even know what to call this, but this thing where the TV is kind of attached, you're able to turn it. So here you have it in the living room in case you want to watch it in the living room, or you can turn it over to the bedroom that way. And so again, excellent use of space. Separates the space, and it also allows you to have the TV on both sides, which is pretty cool in my opinion. I haven't had anything like this in a previous apartment, so I thought that was pretty cool. Over here, I've got the workspace. This is where I work most of the day. So you can see I've got my laptop. I have a portable monitor, which I travel with. Amazing, makes work way easier. Do get some questions about that sometimes. It is obviously not ideal, especially if you're backpacking or something like that, but because I stay in each spot for 6 months, at least 3 months I'll stay in a place, then for me it's super worth it to have that and just be able to work a little bit easier. I used to just buy a monitor at every place I went to, but then there's the hassle of like getting the monitor each time. Some places don't have great delivery, so I have had times of like carrying a monitor 20 minutes walking, sweaty in the summer. It's not a great experience. So I figured, you know what, I'll just have a slightly smaller screen, slightly heavier bags to carry, but I constantly have consistent access to a solid monitor. So that's been worth it for me. Basic stuff like headphones. I've got a mic for video meetings as well. I have the laptop up on a stand, which is good just so that when you're sitting here, I can show you real quick. But when you're sitting here, you're kind of looking straight ahead rather than looking down at your laptop. So that's good for posture and whatnot because you're sitting constantly. Because I have it up on the stand, I have a separate keyboard, mouse, basic stuff, light for video calls and things like that. But yeah, it's really not anything, I would say, super out of the ordinary for a workspace, probably what you would expect. Heading over to the bedroom, starting to get a little dark here, so maybe I'll turn on the light so you can see a little bit better. The bed is actually quite small. I'm not sure if it looks big or small on camera, but it's not huge. It's fine for 1 person, but for 2 people, I would say it'd be slightly tight for a full 6 months. I've got the curtains a little bit closed there, but you can see there's a window outside. And I do have a small desk over on this side. I really don't use it because I don't like to work right beside my bed, but sometimes if I want to journal or just do something like that, then it is useful for that. Here I've got closet and storage space as well. So this is basically where I keep my clothes. Small suitcase, more clothes, a bunch of cabinets and things like that. That's pretty much it over here. Honestly, there isn't anything too interesting. It's just a bunch of like storage, shoes, clothes, things like that, towels, linens, a little bit more storage, some plants and kind of like decorations up here. Got my purple lights over here. Here's the view outside. It's not anything too crazy over here. I'll go to the balcony in a second, but this is the view from the bedroom. Just a bunch of buildings. That's pretty much what São Paulo is. One thing I actually almost forgot to show you. This is one of the coolest things I think here. Again, another example of the host doing a really good job with the storage in here is the bed. You can actually lift up the bed. I don't think I've had one of these before, but you lift up the bed and there's storage right under here, which is pretty cool, very convenient. See, I've got my suitcase in there and there's just a bunch of storage from the apartment down here. So that is very, very cool to have, and you just push it back down. That's pretty much it, and the bed pretty much stays made, so it's very, very convenient. Next, head over to the washroom. It's not massive, but I would say it pretty much does the job. Sorry, I've got a towel over here from when I took a shower. But yeah, it's I would say a pretty simple shower. There really isn't anything too crazy in here. All the storage that you might need right over here. So last thing inside the apartment before we head to the terrace, co-working, all the kind of amenities that they have in the building is the balcony out here. You can see that they have this fence. This is pretty normal from what I've noticed in São Paulo. A lot of pictures that I've seen people take. They seem to have these nets on the balcony. My mom told me apparently it's for birds. So I guess that makes sense, but I feel like it's really ugly. Anyway, you can see it's just a bunch of buildings around, some trees and things like that, but not any kind of crazy views. It's not a huge balcony. It's not tiny either. I don't spend a ton of time here. I honestly mainly use it to dry my boxing gloves and boxing wraps and stuff like that. But yeah, that is pretty much the balcony. I'd say the terrace is much nicer. So let's head over there. Actually, one thing I forgot to mention in the washroom is the plug. This isn't just the plug in the washroom. This is just the one that happened to melt. So I was using a European plug, as you can see over here, because Brazilian plugs look very similar to European, and a lot of European plugs will fit in there, but many won't. Basically, it's a bit weird because any Brazilian prong will fit. For example, this is a European prong, but it's one that I bought here in Brazil, and it says Europe, but it works for Brazil. If you bring a European prong to Brazil, it's going to be too thick, which is very annoying. You can see, I'll show you as an example, my hair dryer is somewhere here. European prong. You'd think this would fit here, but it doesn't. So if you get like a universal adapter, say it's just too thick to fit in there. If you get a universal adapter outside of Brazil, it's not going to work here. You need to get one here. It's honestly super annoying, but it is what it is. So melted that other plug, which was really cool. And it's still stuck in there. I need to talk to the Airbnb people to get it fixed, but anyway, thought I would mention that don't bother getting a bunch of plugs outside of Europe because outside of Brazil, because most likely you're going to have to buy one here. The general European plug isn't going to work. So anyway, having said all of that, before I give you all the details about price, location, everything like that, I will take you guys to the other parts of the building. As I said, there's a terrace, co-working space, gym, other things maybe I might be forgetting now, but yeah, I'll kind of show you around the building so you see everything that is included. A barbecue party area over here, but no one's using it. These are the views from the terrace. This building is under construction, so it looks ugly, but the terrace is quite big. Let's see, there isn't anyone here. I should come up here more often, actually. It seems like a nice place to hang out. I hung out here with my mom once at sunset, and it was nice. Got a bunch of these cool hanging chairs, regular chairs, some kind of benches over there. But yeah, lots of nice places to kind of lounge out here. As you can see, the views are really not pretty. São Paulo is not pretty from above. It's nice when you're walking around and it's quite green, but if you look at it from above, there's a reason they call it, well, if you look at it from above, it's not quite as pretty. It's just a bunch of concrete. There are some mountains in the background, but yeah, it doesn't undo the concrete mess out here. So that's pretty much the terrace. This place has 24-hour security. You can't even get near the apartment without getting past security because there's a gate, so it does feel very safe. Very basic gym. I go to an actual gym, but this isn't awful for an apartment gym. If I ever need a quick workout and can't make it to the gym, I can come here and do a few things, which is convenient. This is the laundry room. No in-unit laundry, which isn't ideal, but this is at least better than having to go to a separate laundromat outside of the building. We basically just reserve machines when we need them, and it's just over 7 reais for a wash, same for a dry. There's also a co-working space. I wish it had Wi-Fi, but then I guess too many people would be here, so I don't know. It's just okay, honestly, but it's nice to have. So this is what you can get on Airbnb for about $1,000. Just like any city, you can get a way cheaper apartment just by renting directly, but Airbnb is different, and I am happy to pay a premium for the simplicity. It includes the utilities, a Wi-Fi, everything like that, and obviously there's just more flexibility than booking directly. Also here in Brazil, I'm sure I'd need a bunch of documentation and it'd be quite the headache to book an apartment directly. So just like everywhere else I've been, I rely on Airbnb. There are other sites that are similar of short-term rentals, but they're all gonna have pretty similar prices. I'll always pay the short-term rental premium, especially on a platform like Airbnb where you have that support, that security. For me, it's worth it. Also, you can get a much bigger place, even on Airbnb in São Paulo, in a different location. So I'm very, very central. I'm very close to the most touristy possible place, I would say. And so definitely paying a premium to be there. But for me, again, location was worth it. In São Paulo specifically, I wanted to be here. And so I paid the premium for it. If you don't care, you want to be further away, you want to be somewhere else, then you'll be able to get a much bigger place for the same price. So a couple things to keep in mind there. So there are many more videos, many more videos coming soon from here in São Paulo. If there's anything specific that you guys would want to see that you're curious about, let me know in the comments and I'll try to include that in an upcoming video. And I will see you in next week's video.